So any successful entrepreneur is only successful because they failed many, many, many times. And you have to move forward. You have to continue. Or if you don't, there's always the world of jobs.
Go get a job.
Go get a job.
Go get a job.
And you'll work less hours. You will work way less hours. You'll have time off on the weekends. You'll probably have a better work-life balance in the short term. But you'll be working and doing that forever.
One characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success. It was grit.
All right. It has been a long time since we last recorded. This actually won't be the update with Kyle and I, but I'm really excited about this episode. We're interviewing Mike Hauptman. Mike is someone that has had just a long career in the ad tech space. He owns his own DSP, which is a demand side platform company called AdLib. So go check it out. But I wanted to bring Mike on because Mike has basically been dealing with, over the past 2 weeks, just a huge obstacle in that the platform that he had built his product on, just a massive company in the space called MediaMath, just out of nowhere went bankrupt, overnight, basically. And so without notice, he's had to, pick up the scraps and figure out, how to handle this situation. And I think this is something that is relevant to all entrepreneurs. At some point, you're going to go through either a number of small kind of obstacles or potentially a big obstacle like this. And just wanted to talk to him about what that's been like, how he's handling it, and how he's taking next steps forward. I think he's got some really good insight, and I think he's dealing with it in just a really kind of mature way, and trying to do what's best for his customers and best for his team. So without further ado, let's get into it. How are you? It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm good, man. This is the last day at my home office. In about an hour, someone's coming to help break some stuff down. And on Monday, I'm moving into an office about 4 minutes down the road.
Okay.
So super local, but I've been working from home for 5 years and got the 2.5-year-old and 9-month-old at home now. And it's just getting to the point where it's really hard to get a full day in. Yeah. And with everything that happened over the past 3 weeks, I've found myself working from the library.
Yeah, I saw that. I was going to ask.
It's very quiet, and they don't look so kindly upon phone calls from there. Mm-hmm. So I needed to move pretty quickly and found a space really close by. It's a really nice looking. It's a really comfortable office space. I'm looking forward to getting in there and getting a nice little setup for meetings and deep work and all of that.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny you say all those keywords because Kyle and I are both part of this co-working space. Right now it's just Atlanta, but they have I want to say they have 8 locations, and then I think they actually are opening one in Nashville soon. And then my guess is they're going to be trying to expand this all over the US at some point. But it's basically so what they do is they split it into 2 sections. So one section they call and it's open 24 hours a day. So one section is called the Library of Deep Work, which is a bunch of keywords you just used. So basically you go in there and it's like a library where they have those wooden cubicles, and you can go sit down in there. There's 1 million sound machines. Nobody's allowed to talk in there. It has to be complete quiet. And then in there, they also have, you've probably seen those things that they stand up in offices, but they're those little sound rooms or whatever. You can just go in and no one can hear you. So they usually have 3 or 4 of those as well. So you can take calls. And then in the front, the other half of the workspace is basically sort of like a cafe or coffee shop. So they'll have one of those really nice, super expensive automatic coffee machines. And so you can just go in there and get coffee. and you're allowed to talk in there, and they usually have music going and stuff. And so a bunch of people work in there too. Some people like to work with that sound in the background. And there's like couches and like different places you can sit and stuff. But yeah, it's good. It's like, and what they're trying to do is like go into all these little neighborhoods. So instead of just being like only in the big city, it's sort of like, let's hit these little neighborhoods so people can, the remote people can kind of stay where where they live basically, and have like a little spot. It's not a huge place. They're all like pretty small. But it's like $100 a month. So hard to beat that.
Dedicated desks at all, or just mostly open seating?
Open seating. So that's how it would differ from like a WeWork or something, where you could get a dedicated office or dedicated desk, I guess. But yeah, so it's a little bit different, but it's kind of like, it's sort of like it's the same use case of people going to like a coffee shop, except for it's like a little bit more dedicated to being like, it is a workspace that has coffee basically, and it's in your neighborhood, so you don't have to go far. So we have like 7 around Atlanta, and you can go to any of them and you just pay $100 a month. So like, I have one in my own neighborhood, so like it's like a mile from my house, so I just go over there. But yeah, man,
I look around. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I totally get where you're at with the kids. How old are they?
2.5 and 9 months old.
Oh man.
Yeah.
No, you just had to have them like right at the same time. Oh
man. We had 2 under 2. I'm not getting any younger. I think we're good now. We have a boy and a girl, so we're going to be good for a little while.
That was basically the same as us.
On that concept, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I have a thought on there's something to add. What I've been thinking about on this concept of hubs, suburban office hubs. One, there's all this open retail space, underutilized space throughout America. Where
malls and stuff.
Malls. You have malls. You have libraries. You have schools that have been shut down. You have, even hotels that can be transformed and reutilized to create, local regional hubs for remote workers that are working at different companies. But I know, and then we're also going to see companies creating smaller regional hubs in places like, this is our Westchester hub. So everybody who's living in Westchester, instead of commuting 40 minutes or an hour each way to New York City, 10 minutes, 15-minute drive, whatever the parallel is for Atlanta, all the smaller cities. Cheaper rent, happier people, better work-life balance. And we're going to see a lot of that happening over the next few years. So we're never going to go back to everybody has to commute to the same exact office. They'll probably have them. They'll be smaller offices, maybe showpieces for client meetings and just all hands, stuff like that. We're definitely going to never be the same.
Totally. Yeah, we've been having that happen for quite a while in Atlanta. So like when you think of Atlanta, you think of, like the city, but a lot of people have moved to the suburbs in the suburbs of Atlanta. So like Alpharetta is a big suburb of Atlanta, and there's actually like quite a few companies in Alpharetta now. Startups, big companies, and now they've built these like mixed use projects and things out there that are where they bring like restaurants and stuff like from the city, the same restaurants, and they'll bring them out there and they put them in this place, and now that place is like all the it's all the rage, at least out there. I don't go there that much, but it's, actually that's not true. I've been going there. I've actually started going to the burbs a lot more now because my parents live out there, and so when you have 2 kids, you're looking for a little downtime, a little more freedom, and have the grandparents watch the kids. So we had, and they have more pools and stuff. So mine are, I got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. They're both but soon to be 2 and 5. So same. I was in the same ballpark as you, basically, like same ages. I remember those days. And I'm glad to be past those days. But yeah, it's I can imagine sleep is tough, and just like, you're already dealing with, work stuff. There's always problems with if you're starting a company or you're running a company, there's problems every day that pop up. And so it's like, yeah, I totally get where you're at. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on today. And I honestly wanted to, I personally want to talk to you about it. Cause I think it's a pretty interesting, I mean, it's probably not that interesting to you, but, I think it's something that probably most entrepreneurs run into at some point, some kind of thing like this, some sort of huge obstacle that they have to get past, or maybe it's just a bunch of little obstacles that are just coming at them all at once, and it kind of adds up. I imagine at some point people are running into this. And I think this year, especially people that raise money and stuff, they're all running into the same obstacle this year, which is, we raised a bunch of money, or we raised a Series A, and now it's impossible to raise a Series B. It's really difficult. And so there's that whole classification of companies and entrepreneurs that are running into that problem right now. And just generally the last year has kind of been not great. So I think everybody's been running into, problems here and there, but a lot more about what happened with MediaMath and whatnot. But just to give everyone that's listening, a little bit of kind of background. So when I started AdReform, with Kyle back in 2017, we started going out to the market and trying to talk to different people. And we met on some forum site or something, where you had been looking for a service that was similar to what we were doing. And I think maybe you were just leaving MediaMath or something like that. At the time you were a VP at MediaMath, I think. And, anyways, long story short is you made an intro and MediaMath became our first customer ever. So thank you for that. As I've said many times in the past, got the ball rolling for us. And so that's how we met, and we've always just stayed in touch, and, both building companies in the kind of the ad tech ecosystem. And, you've been a big help to me, figuring that stuff out, cause I don't know it as well as you do. And, so we've stayed in touch. Recently, there's been some crazy stuff happening in your world with MediaMath, which is one of the biggest players in the ad tech industry, basically going bankrupt overnight. And there's a bunch of companies that rely on them, a bunch of companies built on top of their platform. And so, a lot of craziness and curveballs being thrown at a lot of people in the industry, but specifically you. And so I just wanted to talk to you about that whole situation, how you're dealing with it, how you're getting past it, and, that sort of thing. But I'll give you the floor. So maybe talk a little bit about what the heck happened. Cause I still don't understand. I don't actually know the details other than the fact that they've gone bankrupt and didn't tell anybody until they basically went bankrupt. So maybe you could shine more of a light on that.
I don't know. I actually don't know much more about it than that.
What you read. Yeah.
What I've what the public knows in
but
that.
You had a relationship though, with them, right? I think they were an investor.
So the impact of it, I think, to myself, to me, and AdLib is definitely different than most of the other people out there, in that we built a business on top of MediaMath. Mm-hmm. So very much affected us in the long run. I think we're going to be in a much stronger place. It definitely was a major disruption to our business and created some anxiety and challenges and some sleepless nights over the past few weeks. I'm really proud of the team and how we've recovered from that, and I'll get into the whole backstory. But yeah, it's created some lemons for us, and we are in the process of turning that into lemonade. So the backstory is, I was an early MediaMath employee. joined in 2010 as the first sales engineer at MediaMath. And over the course of the next 6 or 7 years, built out the sales engineering team, the solutions engineering teams globally. And at one point, prior to leaving in late 2018, I was overseeing a 70-person team there. At that time, also incubating AdLib as a spin-off of MediaMath to bring their technology to the mid-market and making their ad buying capabilities more accessible to mid-size agencies, kind of the longer tail who historically have not been able to access really premium ad buying ecosystems. There are all these incredibly high barriers to entry, huge annual contracts and monthly minimums. The platforms themselves are really hard to use. So we set out to make it really easy for any marketer to get a login to a premium DSP and not have to hire specialized traders and new resources to make campaigns do what you want them to do. At the end of 2018, I left MediaMath full-time, my full-time role at MediaMath, and got heads down on building AdLib. My co-founder, Dan, was moonlighting. He also was working at MediaMath. We've actually been working together since 2006. So at this point, it's 17 years. We've kind of worked together at our previous roles before MediaMath. I pulled him over to MediaMath, and then in January of this year, just December of last year, he left MediaMath full time when he was overseeing API and UI engineering for MediaMath. So we set out as these two people who arguably are two of the most intimate or knowledgeable about MediaMath technologies and how to build on top of their platform, build on top of their APIs, and have been growing the business to where it's gotten now, which we're really proud of. And there have been these rumblings over the years, and even more recently about some kind of a event where MediaMath could potentially be purchased, or there might be a sale of a MediaMath to someone like a Delphic or a Viant. That has always been kind of a lingering, not even a lingering concern. It's always been a concern of ours. And what would happen if MediaMath were to get sold? And precedent that we saw was, in most cases, these companies keep their clients and they stay running. Xandr has gotten, which was AppNexus, has been bought and sold several times, and technology still stayed around. The clients got migrated over to whoever was the new owner of that technology, but we were not overly concerned about access and just everything that we built having going away, like the infrastructure actually going away. We always thought that
they're going to get bought.
We'd be working with another telco or another company, and they'd be happy that we're a good client and we pay our bills and all that stuff. So
you don't expect a company just you don't expect them to go bankrupt overnight, for sure.
Yeah, we were thinking about, and we kind of knew that in the long run we should diversify and we should de-risk things, but we did not think that what happened would happen, which was one morning we woke up and we got a message saying, hey, I need to talk. And it was communicated to us that and this was a Friday morning, it's the summer, and it was communicated, it was summer, weekend of July 4th, like basically the long weekend before July 4th. And it was communicated to us that MediaMath was, had filed for bankruptcy, and that our access to the platform would be, not that our access to the platform, but all campaigns running through the platform would cease running at midnight. And this was like 9 a.m., which means that all of our cash and all of our revenue and all of our clients who depend on us to run campaigns, everything would stop. So that was
not
the news.
What you want to hear.
Yeah, that was the news, and major heart and stomach moment, and major bouts of anxiety, and started to kind of percolate.
So once your initial reaction, obviously, just like anybody's would be, is like, oh shit, and then some level of anxiety. And, but at some point, I assume probably within that 24-hour period, it's like, okay, well, there's no point in sitting here and like, just sulking in this. Like we gotta, either we will just sit and sulk and we're done, or we gotta do something. There's only two choices. So you guys did something. So at what point did you kind of like kind of come to grips with that? And then, what was sort of like your next move, in terms of, dealing with this kind of existential issue?
Crisis, yeah. So my wife came home kind of after that call, and
Does she work, or is she at home with the young one?
She's being a mommy right now. She's taking care of our kids. So she had been out with I think it was my son, and she came home, and I shared with her what happened, and she was incredibly supportive and just wanting me to know that she believed in me and knew that I would figure it out. So that was a really
even if you don't think you can figure it out, it's when someone's like, oh, you'll figure it out. Yeah. It's almost like they're telling you, you better figure it out. And you're like, oh shit, I got to figure this out.
Yeah. My son's right there. My daughter's right there. So I said, okay, I'm going to figure this out. So I just went for a little walk up and down the block, and I started thinking as I do and trying to clear my head. And where I arrived at was there were two options, but one of them wasn't going to be just turning off the business. Mm-hmm. It was, okay, how do I just get things live ASAP in any way, shape, or form and get some of my clients up and running? And thing two was, is it time to sell the business? Is there an opportunity now to figure out how to roll up into a larger organization where we could stop grinding? And like, am I even ready? Like it was okay. Thing one is figure out what to do, get things live. That's going to be a grind. Thing two is stop grinding and just sell what I have and take some chips off the table. So I thought about those two things and made some phone calls. Actually, before I did that, I made a list of our top, like kind of 80% revenue clients, and just personally reached out to all of them and communicated what I knew, which was MediaMath has declared bankruptcy. All of our campaigns are going to stop at midnight. I'm doing everything I can and reaching out to everybody I know to figure out a way to minimize the impact of this to your business. I'm really sorry that this happened. It really sucks that this happened. I hope that we can get you back up and running as soon as possible. That's what's happening. Every single one of our clients was supportive. And every single one of our clients communicated that they trusted us to get things back up and running, and that they were clients of ours because they believed in us. And that, really sucks. They're really sorry about what happened also, MediaMath, but that didn't mean that they didn't trust and like our product and want to continue doing business with us.
Yeah.
Which was another incredible, point of validation and support that just picked me back up, off the ground.
Yeah, and that makes your decision a little bit easier about what to do, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I've got I've got my own support system, and I've got the backing of my customers. Let's go try to figure out how to make this work in some way. And it may be like, I know when we were building, I'm building on a platform right now with another product. But in our, previous product, we were fully built on Intercom, which I would say is a similar level. Like in that space, they're sort of like a MediaMath, right? Mm-hmm. So for those that don't know, like probably a lot of people may not know what MediaMath is, but like in the ad tech ecosystem, MediaMath is sort of like, it's basically like the Trade Desk, MediaMath, Google Ad Manager, like top, maybe I guess like Microsoft. They're like top 5 ad tech company in the entire ecosystem. So for them to go like bankrupt overnight is like a massive surprise that I don't think anybody would have guessed. And so, in my world, like if that were to happen with Intercom, you always have that thing in the back of your mind. It's like, we got to get away from this thing, because we need to, in some way sort of diversify away from this, but like, it's never the right time to do it. And there's no real reason to do it, right now. Right. So, sometimes it's kind of nice to have some sort of forcing function to get you to do the thing you should have done, years ago, or you should be doing. And so my guess is that, without actually knowing, that's probably what you guys are kind of like in the process of.
Forcing function is a word I've been using a lot over the past few weeks. Well,
that's a nice professional way to say it.
Yeah.
Forcing function.
Yeah, because we've kind of known, we had been in conversations with some friendlies and partners and people that we know in the ecosystem that have access to like agencies and other partners that have access to other ad buying platforms. And we've been putting some lines in the water and having conversations over the past prior to this happening because of the news with Adelphic and Viant, because we kind of knew that there may be some risks. We just wanted to make sure that we were going to maybe have some backup option, even if it wasn't going to be great, we could have something. What that meant was we were actually able to get a portion of our campaigns up and running before Friday at midnight when MediaMath went off. Had some friends out, had some people lean in, and we were able to migrate our largest client over to a new platform and at least get something going before midnight. And we basically didn't skip a beat. As far as we did not have a zero revenue, we skipped a beat. It was a smaller beat, but we did not have a zero revenue day, which I can't believe. It's amazing. And today, 3 weeks later, we're at about 90% run rate as to where we were on June 30th, call it, or June 29th.
That's the day that all that stuff went down.
The day that stuff happened. We're not.
So you're at 90% of the revenue you were doing before that.
Yeah. That's
not awesome. That's awesome.
It's not in the same way. It's we've got a lot of people doing a lot of manual work, and it's nothing like it was, and it's not in the future. We're looking at.
But it keeps you alive.
Yeah, we're looking at getting more diversified. We're looking at how to de-risk things even further, because even though we're planning on building on a well-funded platform that is maybe likely a public company, we still need to figure out what our strategy is in the long term, such that we are not beholden to a single point of failure.
Well, first of all, that's awesome that you guys are able to do that, even if you have like all these different, it's not the same process internally, and but it's to most of building a company is just sort of like staying alive long enough to get to that moment where things get a lot easier. That's how I always felt like in the early days too. Like we just like there was moments where I was like, oh my God, dude, like I'm not, I'm starting to have kids, I'm not making any money. The business does not seem like it's going well, right? Like I don't know. I've seen businesses go well and this isn't it. What do we do? Like what's going on? And the one thing I'd always just, even like in the lowest moments, I was just like, we just gotta stay alive. Like, eat ramen noodles and just keep going and just like sort of outlast everything else. If we can just do that, I feel like we'll get to something that matters at some point. And, luckily we did. But yeah, it's very difficult in certain moments to kind of like keep that it's hard to think that way though, when everything seems like it's crashing or just not working or whatever. Like everyone thinks being an entrepreneur is like about the success and all this stuff, but I think it's really about like moments like this. It's either lots of mini moments like this or really big moments like this, like it is for you guys, where it's sort of like this one big thing that's like you have to get past it. Like that's really what makes an entrepreneur, in my opinion, is those like crappy times that you have to the obstacles you have to get past and just not giving up. So props to you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, there are absolutely going to be obstacles and failures. That is as certain as death and taxes when you're dealing with building a business. So any successful entrepreneur is only successful because they failed many, many, many times. And you have to move forward. You have to continue. Or if you don't, there's always the world of jobs.
Go get a job.
Go get a job.
Go get a job.
And you'll work less hours. You will work way less hours. You'll have time off on the weekends. You'll probably have a better work-life balance in the short term. Mm-hmm. But you'll be working and doing that forever.
Well, your work-life balance is capped at a certain, level where I think, if you can get to, I don't know what, like, obviously you guys have been like grinding hard recently because of all of this, which makes sense. I don't know what life was like for you prior to that. If you had gotten to a place where like work-life balance was really, flexible and that sort of thing, because you guys had the machine sort of running.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely been moments like early on in the company where there was no work life. Like I was just working all the time, and you're also dealing with like the mental side of like, why isn't this working? And like doubting things all the time and that sort of thing. But then you get to a point, hopefully, where it gets really like the work-life balance is like amazing. And you could literally do nothing for a month, like zero. And you're still going to be at the same revenue or growing without having to do anything. And that, like, getting to that point is, I think, what everybody kind of wants to, well, maybe not everybody, but like at least the smaller businesses like us, they probably want to get to some sort of operation like that where they have some flexibility. But yeah, it's it's a grind for a little while. So people need to expect that. All right. I wanted to break away real quick just to talk about our sponsor for the week, Fetch. And it's fetchtruck.com. So this is a really cool product that I've used, that my neighbor uses all the time. And it's, that challenge you run into where you have something big that you just purchased or something really big that you have to move and you have no way to move it because it's impossible to pick up and carry somewhere, or you don't have a truck or some sort of larger vehicle that you can, move that stuff. And so, Fetch makes it really easy for you to just go to their site or go to their app and basically just find a truck or van on demand. And they have all different types of trucks that you can, different vehicle sizes that, depending on what you're moving, it just makes it really easy to be able to access that when you need it. But the real thing that I wanted to focus on that's really interesting to me as an entrepreneur is their partnership program. So if you have, a truck or some sort of van that you already own, or you're thinking about, maybe you're going to buy one, they have this really cool program where you can basically rent out your truck, rent out your van, and you don't have to do any work. You basically just sit there. They do all the marketing. They put the insurance on the cars. And obviously they have the marketplace for folks to find you. So they basically do all the work and you just sit there and rake in cash. So while you hear all these podcasts out there and all these different creators and entrepreneurs talking about, buying a house and renting out, for Airbnb and things like that, and that's how they make passive income. That's great, and those are cool ways to make income. But sometimes they're not super practical, especially if maybe you don't have the money to kind of put a down payment on a home. And Fetch really makes it kind of, your barrier to entry is a little bit lower, which I think is really cool. And I love that they do all the work for you essentially. So this is just a great way to kind of get a business off the ground. And maybe it's not something you focus on full time. Maybe it's just a part time thing. But being able to make up to $30,000 per year renting out your truck or your van is pretty insane. And so they have a ton of great resources on how you can do this, a full kind of partner program guide as well. If you go to fetchtruck.com, and they have a little link at the top that says list your truck, that's where you can find it. If you have any other questions about this, they are super helpful. So you can reach out to them on their site. And again, that's fetchtruck.com. And it's list your truck. So definitely check them out. And at a very minimum, the next time you have to move something large or you have to pick something up, definitely go to the site and give it a try. All right, back to the show.
So yeah, part of what made this so catastrophic was after about 5 years of nonstop grinding and weekends and working and literally just dragging my laptop around with me everywhere I went because I never knew where I was going to be. Having just my Wi-Fi pack, a little 5G hotspot, and my laptop everywhere I went for the past 5 years. This was the first summer in 5 years where I wasn't going to have to do that. Literally on a island little thing out in Panama on my honeymoon was working. This was the first summer that I promised my wife and my kids I was going to be totally present. I was going to have some Fridays, was going to take a couple of weeks off. We had a trip to Chicago planned where I was going to visit our new nephew, and this happened. So not only short-term immediate things got blown up, but now we're, oh crap, how far back to square one am I? And am I now going to have to spend the next 2 to 3 years grinding again, building on top of another platform to get back to where I was? And if that's the case, I don't know if I can do that again. I just don't know if I'll survive personally, if I'll be able to keep it together. So that's what has us also thinking more strategically long term. As we're trying to figure out, okay, how long is it going to take us to get back to where we're going to be? If it's going to take us a really long time, then maybe we take our chips off the table, and it's not as much as we thought we were going to get in the long run in some type of an event. But it's enough, and we can get a job and get some security and some weekends off and have some upside. That's super appealing to us now also. We'll have a better sense of what rebuilding is going to look like over the next 30 days and what that timeline looks like. And at the same time, we're having some conversations to just understand if an opportunity to join forces with a larger organization exists, because maybe that just helps us accelerate getting AdLib into more hands more quickly.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off. You work for another, you sell the business and then you work for that company.
Yeah, exactly.
You're still building the same thing. You're just doing it without the pressure of, oh, this relies on me completely.
Exactly.
And my family relies on me. So it's like my family's actually people in the business and my family are relying on me, and their families are relying on them, and it all relies on this business. I totally get that. That's kind of how with our, the last year, well, recently it's been getting better, but I don't know, let's say 6 months ago in the prior 12 months. So, from there. So let's say prior 12 months from I don't know, February or something was pretty rough. And I think it probably pretty rough for a lot of people in a lot of different industries because of the markets. and then we get that. You probably see me talk about the stupid tax thing that's going on with Section 174. So you're getting squeezed on the profit that you make. But yeah, so then you start thinking, you're just like, oh man, like I always just think of the bit. I mostly think about the business in term. We've been lucky to get to the point where I can just think about the business, like just the business. I'm not thinking about people and their families and, cause I just haven't had to. But then when stuff like that happens, you sit there and you're like, oh, I sort of look at the business as like a game, right? It's like sort of like a game to me. It's like, how do I get more revenue? And then I'm increasing my profits. Like, you're playing like a little Sim City or whatever that game was, right? Mm-hmm. But then when it starts to get more, when things get squeezed a little bit, you start thinking about like the real life implications of all of this stuff. And you start thinking about like all the people that rely on this business doing well. And who relies on them, and you're just like, oh God. Then you start to feel that's when the pressure comes. And I totally understand why someone would, why an entrepreneur would want to sell at some point and just like, even if they're not selling to make a lot, like ton of money, like take a little bit of money off the table and then just mostly just take a lot of pressure off the table. I think that's like a big reason why people sell, especially in, harder times, whether it's market related or something crazy in your specific world changes. Like I totally understand why people would want to do that from the pressure perspective. And especially like people our age, having kids and stuff, and you got young kids and that sort of thing. Like, yeah, totally understandable. And in the back of your mind too, I always think of this too. It's like, okay, if I sold, like what would I do next? And like, I'm in sort of a phase in my life where, you have young kids, you only have them once, right? And so it's like, you want to spend as much time with them as you can. So you can't really go as hard as you used to go on work related things. And you're like, well, maybe when I'm like 45 or something, like I'll have more I'll have more space and energy to get back to what I was before, but I have no idea what I'm going to feel like when I'm 45. So it's like, I don't know, but, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from.
Still have enough energy. I'd be excited to start something new. Don't know what that would look like. If we were to have some kind of an exit at this point, don't think it would be anything where it'd be set up in a position. Maybe it could be, but don't. I think it'd still be needing to do something else. Take that and turn it into another SaaS product, an advisory firm, something more strategic.
You guys are working on a lot of different things, like new things, and having to like build on top of other new things. You don't really know like what opportunities might arise from doing some of these things like that you may have not seen before. And then on top of that, this, but like sometimes when I don't know what it is, like you could be feeling bad about things for a while, and then out of nowhere, you hit a couple home runs with some new customers or something, and it totally changes the feeling you have internally as an entrepreneur. It can sometimes just like totally and just get you like reinvigorated out of nowhere. Now you go on like a hot streak for like 3 to 6 months where you're like totally back into it. That's happened to us like so many times throughout this life cycle, and different businesses that we've had get excited about one, and then now we're all of a sudden excited about this thing again because we've had some success, and you really get into it for another. But yeah, it's very difficult to go on a dead sprint for, it's difficult to go on a dead sprint for a year, let alone like 5 years. Yeah. And so like you have these little like lulls in that, I think, and sometimes it's just random things that sort of pop up or happen at the same time that you should jack you back in and get you excited again. It's like getting those new customers and stuff is such like I don't think people realize like the lifeblood of an entrepreneur, at least for me, is like momentum, some sort of momentum. And when you go on those lulls, like it just like, it feels like you just don't have it. It's just, I don't know. And then you just like lose, you just don't care as much anymore out of nowhere because you just don't have that momentum. But as soon as you get a little bit of that, it's like drugs or something, it's like you're ready to go. Let's jump back in.
And it doesn't take much.
Yeah, it doesn't take much.
One conversation can be absolutely life changing. One conversation can make your business, and you just need to keep doing it.
One new deal, it's some new like they kind of want this new thing you didn't know was like something people wanted, and now you give a little more focus to that. Next thing you know, you're piling on more customers. Like you just don't know where that's going to be, and it's kind of like you're just sort of like, if you just want, that's why the thing that I mentioned in the beginning is so important, and what you're doing, it's just like stay in the game, just stay alive, and just keep staying curious, and keep like, just stay in the game. If you stay in the game long enough, and you're curious about, different things you may hear from a customer, and like some feedback or something, like something at some point, like if you believe in your ability, like it's something at some point is going to pop, and you're going to be able to take advantage of that thing. But if you're not in the game anymore, if you jump out, like you're not going to get there. So
And keep talking to people. Talk to people.
Yep.
Reach out to your advisors. Reach out to coworkers, people that you've worked with, people that you trust, friends, family members. Tell them what's going on. Keep talking about it. Opportunities and solutions will manifest from that, from those conversations.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. Well, I am definitely inspired by what you're doing, and I am like rooting for you, whether that's in what you're building, or whether you sell, or whatever. I would do anything I can to help. I hope there's someone listening right now that is looking for a new ad platform. You should definitely check out AdLib. We have used it personally and love it. So yeah, I'm like I said, I'm inspired by what you're doing. I think you're doing the right things. Every entrepreneur goes through stuff like this at some point. You just don't know when it's going to happen. If it's going to happen on the current business, on some future business. Like I have a bunch of friends that have gone through stuff very similar to this. One off the top of my head. So we had this guy in Atlanta. You've actually probably heard of this product called SalesLoft. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
So they built a product that started having a lot of success. It was called Prospector, and it was basically like this. This was years ago. They were the first ones to build anything like this. Now there's a lot of products like this, but like they were the first one to build something where you're on LinkedIn and you can like kind of, select people or whatever, and it like automatically would pull them into some sort of database and then find their email addresses and stuff like that, so that you could then, send emails to them. So this was probably in 2015, maybe 2015. They built this product. It started, obviously there's no other product that does this. So it started taking off like crazy. LinkedIn decided to change their policy in terms of what they allowed third parties to access. And they basically like, I don't know the exact logistics of what happened, but there was legality around, like I don't know if LinkedIn sued them or like what happened, but basically long story short, it was like, they gave them some sort of very short window of time. It's like, and then this is gone. And so they had built up a business. I think they were probably at like $7 million in annual recurring revenue, that they had gone from like basically 0 to 7 million in like a couple years, which is like pretty incredible. Like they were one of the fastest growing companies in the SaaS game. And so they have this thing they built this huge team out on this thing. They probably have like 50 employees at this point. It's all built on top. It's all built on this product. And my wife was at the company. That's why I know a lot about this. So, so they're like, oh, what do we do? And it's the same thing. They basically had to figure out what they were going to build to maintain, not just like to stay alive, but to like maintain this huge team and not have to do all these layoffs. And like, they got to like figure out a new business. Well, they pivoted to this other business, which was basically like sequences. So the emails that you're going to send like 7 emails to someone over some period of time. You've probably seen like other products like that. And so they pivoted to that business and just like went really hard at it over the next like 6 months and just nailed it. And they knew about that. They knew about that use case because it was something that they had heard from like customers that they were selling the prospecting tool to. And so like, and now that business is now valued at over $1 billion. And they sold, I want to say they sold like to private equity or something like that in the past like year or so. But like, point is, I mean, you see this happen all the time where that happens to someone and they have to like figure shit out quickly. So yeah, my only advice is like, there's plenty of examples of it. You're not the only one that's gone through it. So like, that like other people have gone through it. Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they don't, but like it happens to a lot of people. And I think you're doing the right thing, which is like, figuring stuff, doing what you do, which is like figure stuff out, try to take next steps and stay in the game and see what happens. Like that's all you can do. And that's all. And that's what that's what I told you earlier too. It's like, this will be a great story to tell your kids one day once they can understand this stuff. You know what I mean? It's like to be able to tell, to tell them like you just built this thing and it just went great and like you had immediate success. That's not much of a story. There's no learning in that, right? You want to be able to tell them about like hard times and how you got past those and how you persevered through that stuff. And those are the types of like learning experiences that you'll be able to share with them, and that I think everybody wants to share with their kids. And how you go through hard times, because that's what's going to happen to everybody. Yeah. So man, I'm excited for you. I think there's good stuff ahead. And if I can ever do anything to help, let me know. But I think you could probably just help me. You know a lot more about this space than I do. I'm just winging it.
I appreciate that, Landon. And appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Well, you've helped me out a ton. I mean, you were pretty important to us, like getting off the ground when we had nothing. So, I mean, I don't know if we would have a business right now if we didn't get that first customer, because it was taking forever to get a first customer. We were probably like 6 months in, already feeling the doubts of it. Like, what have we done? Like, why is this not going well? I thought we knew what we were doing. And then we just needed someone to give us a chance so that we could learn, get feedback from a customer, right? It's like, you got to get a first customer before you can do anything, because you don't know anything yet. That's why we were failing, is because we didn't have any customers. And to get one and then be able to work off of that, like, it was very, very important to our business and like where we are today. So I can't thank you enough for that, for sure.
You're super welcome, man. It's great to hear that it turned into something for you, and happy to make that connection.
Well, it's been awesome catching up. Hey, I guess where can people, if there is anyone listening that's interested in the product, or they want to like reach out on Twitter or whatever, like how can people reach out to you and then also find your product?
So you can find us on getadlib.com, and just quick background on what we do. If you are in the ad buying business, you're a marketer or a media shop, and you're trying to scale campaigns and labor costs get out of control, and it's just really hard to make things work with having a lot of humans involved in launching, managing, scaling campaigns. The AdLib technology and our software and our APIs eliminates all that friction, allows you to launch hundreds, thousands of campaigns a day without having all of those kind of ad ops resources required to make that do what you need it to do. So we're excited to get back and up and running on top of other ad distribution platforms as our backbone, and continue to add value to our clients in minimizing the overhead that it takes to get things up and running.
Awesome. And then on Twitter?
Yeah, personally, I'm on Twitter. It's Hauptman Michael, Hauptman Michael. I think that's it.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll post all the links in the little like episode bio, so everybody has that too. So awesome. Well, I guess that's it.
Thanks, Landon.
Until next time.
See you, man.